Okay, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days. Love Times 3, our true story of a polygamous marriage. We have the Dargers here. Guys, thank you all so much for coming in. We have Joe, Vicky, Val, and Alina. Did I get them all right? Oh, so good. And see, now that must be, hard for you too sometimes.
I try not to ever mess that one up.
Yeah, because we just last year we had a great novelist come in to talk about his book, The Lonely Polygamist. I don't know. I'm guessing you may have heard of it, read it. And one of the things that's in the book is how tough it is for the father, Golden, to keep track of all of his multiple children. He has sort of a song that he uses to keep track. 24 for you. Do you have your own mnemonic device to track them all, or do you call them all Joe, like George Foreman?
And he doesn't use the whistle like the Sound of Music.
Sound of Music.
And he actually remembers all their birthdays and all of our anniversaries.
And that really is what this is all about. Is that you, for all intents and purposes, are a normal American family who just happens to have a lot of kids.
A large family.
Yes, just a regular large family. And that's one of the reasons why you wanted to write this book.
Right. I think there's so many stereotypes and misconceptions that exist. And in the end, there's all types of families that exist in America. And this is a story about family. It's a story about faith, and it's a story about our struggles to get our freedom to live both. And so from that standpoint, I think it resonates for a lot of people. It also is a love story. I mean, we all have a lot of love, and ultimately, I think that resonates with the book.
Now, I think for a lot of people, you say you have a lot of love. Most people have a hard time finding, one person that they can, give all their love to.
Right.
How do you manage to share it with three, and then we'll get your perspective, and then we'll get your side of the story here in just a second.
I think love is, love is not contained. I mean, I think love is not easily defined. It's eternal. It's expansive, and so the more you give of love, the more I think you have of love to give. And I think in this day and age, there's not many people that just have one love in their lifetime anyway. I just happen to be able to have it all together.
That's nice.
All at once.
And do you all feel the same way, that you are all able to share and love both each other and Joe completely?
Well, definitely. I mean, we feel we have our moments, where we have conflict and there's jealousy. Everybody has to ask that question, and we have that. But, at the end of the day, that is what we have, is the love that we share for one another.
And we're just a family, and it is pretty fascinating how we make it all work. And it does take love, and there's a lot of it.
And do you think this is something that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, look at you, read the book, have watched the TV shows, and wondered whether it's something that they could do, just from their own backgrounds. You all come from a background of a fundamentalist Mormon background where this was normal.
Pretty normal for us.
This was the norm for us, and we had a happy childhood growing up. I loved my two moms, and loved that experience of just a huge family. So it seemed natural to me to pick it. Of course, I had to look at things, and I knew there were other ways of life and easier ways, really, probably. But for me, it was about family.
Now, you mentioned that you knew that there were easier ways of life. I mean, this can't be. I mean, you talk about just the scheduling alone is hard. So why? Marriages are tough enough as it is. Why make it harder on yourselves by multiplying the degree of difficulty?
Well, a lot of people go around chasing what makes them happy, and we view things differently. We view it like when I when I joined the family, I already knew that these two were here and had a good relationship and a good relationship. So number one, there's some good references right there, right? But also, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't do it because I thought, oh, this is going to make me so happy. It was because I thought it would bring me fulfillment in my life. And in that, his brought me greater joy than I would have thought possible. So it's wonderful.
Oh, and we brought up that it's definitely a part of our culture and our upbringing. So it's been in our families for generations. It's just a part of who we are and a deep part of our faith.
But at the same time, you know, just reading some of the book, one of the things that it seems to be a constant undercurrent is fear.
Yes.
Whether it's talk about that.
Well, it's especially anyone that has lived around here understands that there's some strong feelings about the subject. And so whether it's fear of economic persecution, discrimination, even just this week we've had some of our kids with repercussions as we've done public, and you know they're going to school and they're feeling it. So it's something that we have dealt with our entire lives. All of us, our grandfathers were in prison. That's recent for us, and that's a real history. And so it's something that we don't think is healthy. It's not healthy to push any segment of society underground and to marginalize them and push them in the fringes. And so we have realized that in order to change anything, generations ago, there were other people that maybe mixed race couples, or there's been gay couples. There's been all kinds of couples and relationships where people are told you can't construct and you can't love who you want to love, and somehow that's still okay for us to be able to not have what we have and have this criminal stigma, and that's not right.
Talk about, ladies, maybe you can chime. Alina, I see you sort of nodding your head down there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's hard for us to understand sometimes how it is that we're not able to form our families as consenting adults the way that we feel it should be best according to our conscience. So it's kind of hard for us to understand that and to live in that fear.
And how have you, as people who grew up with this and, constantly being afraid of, something happening every time you saw something in the news, being afraid of, even talking to a police officer when you needed a police officer.
Or talking too much to anyone. Just
or talking
sharing
too much
or revealing too much to anyone. It just made it kind of difficult to form some good relationships. And that I don't think that it should be that way either. I think that, we should be able to be open about it to those who we want to and not feel like that we might have to fear or just might have to be, feel apologetic for anything.
And have you tried to change that with your kids and make them, proud of their families and open
I think
about,
I've gone a step
things?
beyond with what my parents did for me. I've gone a step beyond with my kids anyway. I feel like I've just said, you should be proud of it, and you shouldn't feel ashamed and feel like you can tell these people who are your friends, and then they go to school and they tell certain people, and they'll come home and say, I find out who my friends are. And they do, and they form some good relationships with some people, and it's been good.
And that was a big underlying reason to write Love Times 3, because we did want to change it for our children. Growing up, I think it taught me a lot of empathy and understanding for other people, and I think I talk to my children a lot about that, but I also hope to make a change for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about, so, you mentioned even, just this week, there's been, some repercussions with your kids. Have there been repercussions beyond that? I mean, Utah has sort of had a, we'll look the other way as long as you, just do your own thing. This is kind of throwing it right out there. Are you looking over your shoulder every time you come to one of these appearances?
Well, of course, it's nothing to be taken lightly. You're talking a felony, and we're law-abiding in every other way. And a felony is a serious offense, and so we're not trying to thumb our nose at the law. But this is, we hope, a very deliberate but a dignified way to try to tell our story and expose some light on a very misunderstood culture that hopefully we can have some serious dialogue and some rational approach to it. I think the Attorney General has said, look, we're not going to go after consenting adults. we're taking him at his word for that, but attorney generals come and go, and the effect that it still has upon a culture is not good. And so we hope.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think that someone like a Warren Jeffs can exist and prey upon fears of a people when they are pushed to the fringes, and you have a long history of feeling like they removed themselves from society, but in part society's pushed them out. So in order for that to change, with the people we know that are very even integrated in society more so than that sect, it's still a secret. It's still something, I have friends that are deathly afraid that they'll be found out.
Right, you don't tell your business associates.
Because they're going to be fired, or their business, their leaders in the business are saying, if you know any of the polygamists out there, let's get rid of them. They shouldn't be working for us because they don't represent our values. We have, when you have this criminal stigma attached to something, people can justify their prejudice.
The same way you wouldn't be able to fire somebody for being gay, for being black, for being Jewish,
Right,
but you can say you have an argument. You can say, well, they're
felons.
They're felons. They're committing a
We'd
crime.
like to see that decriminalized. Really.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more because there's a whole lot more to talk
I
about.
bet.
So stick around. You stay tuned. We've got more with the Darger family right after this.